Last year, our weather went to the extremes.
So we currently have a little bit of rain coming through.
May 16th, 2024, with thunderstorms coming, and the weather turned dangerous. A derecho blowing in a wall of hurricane-force winds. July, Category 5 Hurricane Beryl weakens to a tropical storm.
We want to show you what we're seeing out here right now.
Only to strengthen into a hurricane and take aim at Houston. If that weren't enough, the week of Christmas, tornadoes hit southeast Texas on 3 separate days. Those people in the path put in peril. We even managed to work in a great snow day with no loss of power.
Eye on the Gulf Extreme Weather is sponsored by Kroger, fresh for everyone. Arc Generators, weathering the storm together. And Air Team, your heating and cooling team.
Hello, I'm ABC13 Chief Meteorologist Travis Herzog. We aren't the only ones to experience extreme weather. Last year, Hurricane Helene hit Florida and didn't slow down, bringing intense winds to Georgia before devastating North Carolina with flooding rains. It was very active last year. Unfortunately, this year could be active too. Why are there so many storms that strengthen so rapidly? Let's start with the first major hurricane last year, a name we won't soon forget, Beryl.
For most along the upper Texas coastline, it brings back memories of sweating, sitting in the dark in the July heat. But for some, it brings back the memories of devastation and loss.
But I wasn't really worried. But then when it got here, different story.
Hurricane Beryl broke records from the start, becoming the earliest Cat 4 and Cat 5 hurricane on record in the Atlantic. It also achieved hurricane status farther east than any storm prior. Beryl made landfall as a Category 1 hurricane along the upper Texas coastline in July of 2024, bringing dangerous winds and storm surge between 5 to 7 feet. We're tracking the most dangerous part of the storm, the front right eye wall, and we're starting in Surfside Beach.
All the water kind of focused into here, kind of took over the island, which for that size of storm, it shouldn't have done, but that's another thing. You can't predict what the characteristics are of each storm that comes through. Each one's like a living thing. It's different.
Michael Isbell has lived in Surfside Beach for years, including in one of the iconic A-frame homes you see along the shore. Before Hurricane Beryl, there were 4 of them.
But when Beryl came down, if you can remember, it was absolutely beautiful that day. So we all got up in the morning and drank coffee together, thinking the storm was going to hit on the other side of Matagorda.
But it was worse than they ever could have imagined.
We could reach over the handrail and touch the top of the wave.
Wow.
But that's the top of the wave going over. It was going all the way up to the stop sign. The waves were going all the way to the stop sign. Quite a bit of water, but it seems like it gets worse every year. All the furniture was gone. You know, we found surfboards, little knickknacks that were in dressers that the dressers didn't get sucked out. Like the top part of my A was found 6 streets that way. The window's still not broken in it because of hurricane windows.
Oh, wow.
Flew
Okay.
through the air, drifted in the water.
A lot of people were shocked by how much damage Beryl caused, especially since it was just a Category 1 hurricane. But the National Hurricane Center actually updated the report earlier this year and bumped its peak winds from 80 to 92 miles per hour.
Well, once you realize it's a 1, you're like, I've been through 3s or whatever. And you look around and you're like, what happened? Well, Beryl did a job on us. It did a job on everyone. Trees were down, plants were gone, fences were gone, roofs were gone. It was unbelievable for a 1. We exist in a drought region that's interrupted by floods and hurricanes every year. Don't wait until a hurricane comes in, it's Cat 1, to expose your whole neighborhood.
An important lesson for anyone living along the Gulf Coast.
This storm is raging. I have got flooding so bad you can't even imagine.
Hurricane Helene brought death, devastation, and destruction to the southeast United States last September. The system that became Helene emerged as a region of scattered thunderstorms in the western Caribbean Sea on September 23rd. Over the next 36 hours, Helene rapidly intensified to a Category 2 hurricane.
There's this warm loop current out in the middle of the Gulf, and talks today really show that if you get a hurricane that goes across this warm loop current, warmer water, well, Hurricanes like warmer water, and they really can intensify.
The Category 4 storm made landfall along Florida's Big Bend region on September 26th, packing winds of 140 miles per hour. Communities did their best to prepare.
You got to prepare for everything. You got to prepare knowing that it's going to hit you.
For those in her path, Helene's power was overwhelming.
Man, I just lost my house. I have nothing else to go.
Hundreds in Keaton Beach, Florida, were left with nothing. Everything gone.
Helene's destructive path was far from done. We follow her path through Georgia and North Carolina and look for answers why Helene was so devastating so far inland. Plus, our own chief forecaster, David Tillman, explains what happened when he came face to face with an EF3 tornado. When Eye on the Gulf Extreme Weather returns.
As Hurricane Helene crossed into Georgia and North Carolina, she maintained a Category 1 status. She was a massive rainstorm wreaking havoc on the region, trapping thousands of people in their homes.
Oh my God.
One of the hardest hit areas, Asheville, North Carolina.
This is apocalyptic for the entire region.
Hurricane Helene decimated the southeast. Up to 30 inches fell over a 3-day period. The Painter family returned home to 35,000 gallons of water in their basement.
We're stepping on mud and trying not to fall because it's so thick and slippery.
The power of wind and water was incredible. The incredible force of the wind and water also took a toll on the state's infrastructure as hundreds of bridges were damaged or destroyed.
This has happened before in many other hurricanes. What happens is when a hurricane comes inland and begins to decrease, it's going to have to rain itself out. And if it's moving fast, it could get out of there fairly quickly. But if it then slows down, goes up mountains, and it's going to rain out. And that's going to create a lot of flooding.
In the National Hurricane Center's final report, Helene became the 7th costliest storm on record. It's the 4th deadliest storm to make landfall in the mainland U.S. since 1950. The storm claimed the lives of 248 people and caused $78.7 billion in damage.
Over the last 2 years, the global temperature in the air and oceans is the hottest humans have ever measured.
The atmosphere and oceans combined are holding an extra 33 zetajoules of energy just since 2022. That's enough energy to meet all of humanity's current needs for the next 60 years. Climate scientists are studying this extra heat to see how it might be affecting our extreme weather over the last year.
Well, for the last 100 years, scientists have been telling anybody who will listen, basically, that if we keep dumping heat-trapping gases into the atmosphere, temperatures can keep going up.
Texas A&M climate scientist Dr. Andrew Dessler was caught off guard by just how much our planet heated up since 2023.
It was much hotter than we expected based on the factors we thought were controlling the climate. We were under-predicting the warmth. And in 2024, sort of continued the trend.
It turns out that all this extra energy amplifies extreme weather.
An analogy is that climate change is like steroids. Steroids don't hit a home run. But if you give steroids to a baseball player, it'll turn a routine fly ball into a home run. And that's essentially what climate change does. It takes these pre-existing events. Heat waves always occur, but it makes the heat waves worse. Hurricanes always occur, but it makes the hurricanes more destructive.
So does this mean weather events like the derecho were caused by our warmer climate? Not exactly, according to climate scientist Dr. Maria Molina.
Climate attribution can be a bit tricky. We would love to be able to pinpoint the exact causes for events, but of course there are a number of ingredients that come together contributing to severe weather events.
While we can't say our warmer planet caused a specific storm, we do have evidence the extra heat held in the warm Gulf waters is shifting when we experience severe weather during the year, like our Christmas week tornadoes.
There are more instances where we have these favorable ingredients for these storms. And this is occurring now during times of the year that we typically wouldn't expect to see them.
We also know that our warmer air and oceans have contributed to stronger hurricanes in recent years, including when Hurricane Beryl exploded into a Category 5 over the Caribbean.
The particular waters that Beryl intensified over were something like 400 times more likely to occur because of human-caused climate change, so that when these storms come along, they see that extra heat and they can get a boost in their intensity.
In fact, Dr. Daniel Guilford's team at Climate Central concluded that all but one hurricane from the 2024 season was at least one category stronger because of today's warmer climate.
When we're seeing water temperatures in June that are more akin to what we expect in September, we should also be seeing hurricanes that are more akin to what we expect in September, which are these more extreme hurricanes.
Impacts from our changing climate aren't just felt in the summertime, but in the winter too.
From outer space, looking down from the satellite, we can see the snowpack on the ground.
Winter along the Gulf Coast is normally mild. This past winter, southeast Texas to Florida was hit by a major winter storm. Part of the Gulf Coast even went under a blizzard warning, something that had never occurred in these areas. It had always been on my bucket list to chase a true blizzard, and I finally got my chance this past March.
Wow, I'm in a blizzard now.
It was an incredible experience to watch a semi-truck and a smaller car disappear right in front of me when the visibility dropped to near zero.
Blizzards aren't the only extreme type of weather we've seen around here recently. We've had a rash of strong tornadoes as well. One of them seriously damaged Walt Disney Elementary School here in Alvin, to the point that it had to be demolished.
The roof completely ripped off.
It was an EF2 tornado with winds approaching 130 miles per hour. Along its 9-mile path, the tornado threw a car into a house and destroyed several homes, warehouses, and buildings. An elderly woman lost her life when the twister destroyed her mobile home. Even though only 5 tornadoes struck our area that day, all of them were strong. 2 were rated EF1, 1 was an EF2, and 2 were rated EF3. This rash of strong tornadoes recently is extreme for us. After our strongest tornado on record hit in 1992, we went 26 years before we had an EF3 in 2020. Since then, we've experienced 3 more EF3s. And we weren't done. A bigger tornado was coming, and I was in the path. I explained what happened to me and my car when Eye on the Gulf Extreme Weather returns.
Basically, what we're dealing with is more than likely a very large rain-wrapped tornado. On a more personal note, I wasn't just a meteorologist that day, I was a witness. The tornado that struck here along Highway 124 in Chambers County south of Stoll was my most significant tornado chase. That's because after chasing tornadoes for over 35 years, I'd never been hit by a tornado until that day. It was a terrifying experience.
It didn't at all look like a tornado. It was wrapped in heavy rain, which when combined with sunshine hitting the circulation from the back, gave it a bright blue appearance. Not believing the entire blue area was a tornado, I traveled a short distance west down Highway 1941 to see if I could spot the tornado on the north side of the blue area. It's an area where tornadoes like to hide.
The rain was actually moving sideways, and that's when I realized that we weren't looking at just an area of rain, we were looking at the tornado itself. The tornado was encased in a large area of rain, and whenever you see rain curtains moving from left to right rapidly like that, that lets you know that the tornado was hiding in there.
I attempted to flee down Highway 146 only to be impacted by what I thought was a 125-mile-per-hour wind and the heaviest rain I'd ever encountered.
The wind and the rain was so great that I stopped and I quickly did a U-turn, only to drive north and be impacted by even more heavy rain and wind. And so I did another U-turn and started coming south.
The extreme tornadic winds came close to flipping my vehicle about every 5 seconds or so.
One of the things I did was I would give the car a lot of gas and then I'd slam on the brakes. And I was hoping that the G-forces that I was creating by flooring the gas and slamming on the brake would be enough to overcome the G-forces that were being placed upon me by the winds of the tornado. It seemed to work. I stayed just north of where the strongest winds of the tornado were located, and I was able to keep from having my vehicle be flipped.
I never once thought about taking video of my battle until 10 seconds after the tornado passed. That pickup truck, as close as I was, I never saw it during the tornado.
In a year of extreme weather, Houston was hit with a severe weather event many had never experienced. It left destruction, confusion, and more questions in its wake. Not a hurricane, not a tornado, but a derecho.
A word that prior to May 16th of last year, many Houston area residents had never even heard of, including Erica Ardeano, who was at home with her 3 children the day of the storm.
I never heard of that. I never heard of that term. I didn't know what that was.
A derecho is a powerful windstorm with a very specific definition. Officially, a storm where the wind damage swath extends more than 240 miles, with widespread wind gusts of at least 58 miles per hour, including multiple 75-mile-per-hour wind gusts. And one of those storms was in the beginning stages of development that afternoon.
And the next thing I remember, the TV cuts to Travis, and then he just starts talking about how this storm is looking stronger and it's moving faster.
When you see wind speeds over 100 miles per hour being sampled by the radar, even if it's 1,000 or 2,000 feet above the ground, that's a sign that we got a serious windstorm.
A significant number of transmission lines are down.
The storm, which would go on to knock out power to over 1 million Houston area homes and claim 8 lives, was bearing down on Erica and her family.
And then all of a sudden you just hear like a hurricane, like the hurricane's coming through. And as I'm trying to calm them down, next thing I hear is just like a really loud thud, a crash. And I look over to the kitchen where we literally were just sitting there having dinner like 10 minutes ago. And now there's a hole in my ceiling.
The tree that had split Erica's home in half was just the start. Things go from bad to worse when her son notices something.
So he tells me, "Mom, there's a fire." And so I look over, and sure enough, like a fire had started.
Now, fire building, smoke billowing, and storms still raging outside, Erica was stuck with no good options to protect herself and her 3 children. Her husband, a sheriff's deputy, was on duty working, and she wasn't able to get through to 911, so Erica turned to her mom and dad for help, who happened to live just a few houses away.
As soon as my dad heard that, he dropped what he was doing, and he rushed over here. And he said all he saw was like black smoke, like in our front windows. And then like I was like in the back porch with the kids, like finding a way to like get out without getting hurt, because that wind was just incredible.
Erica's home of 10 years reduced to a charred husk. Her car and her family's possessions also destroyed by the downed tree and subsequent fire. All that remains now is the empty lot where the house once stood. While derecho may be a new word for many Houstonians, they are not a new type of storm. Derechos are more common in the Midwest and Central Plains, where on average, 1 derecho forms every year. Derechos are also somewhat season-specific, as 75% of derechos occur between March and August, with May, June, and July being peak months for derecho formation. Even here in Southeast Texas, we've crossed paths with high-impact derechos before. The Texas derecho of 1989 brought damaging wind gusts from the panhandle of Texas all the way down to the Gulf Coast, while the Texas boaters derecho of 1986 capsized hundreds of boats and drowned 6 people. But after each of these storms, including the most recent derecho on May 16th, resilience and rebuilding.
Construction is here, rebuilding your home?
Yes.
How's it make you feel?
Excited. We're just happy that we're finally getting started, because it's almost been a year. It's just been like a really slow process, but we're getting there.
Erica's story serves as yet another reminder that even in the face of the unexpected, Houstonians find a way to weather the storm. Coming up, did you know choices you make now can help lower your insurance rates and better prepare you for when a storm approaches? That when Eye on the Gulf Extreme Weather returns.
Eye on the Gulf Extreme Weather is sponsored by Kroger, fresh for everyone. Arc Generators, weathering the storm together. And Air Team, your heating and cooling team.
This hurricane season will be more challenging to predict after major cuts in staff to the National Weather Service, which includes the office for the Houston-Galveston area. Those who remain are dedicated to collecting the best information and issuing timely warnings so we can help keep you safe from any tropical activity.
Hurricane Beryl ravaged southeast Texas, causing $7.2 billion of damage, according to NOAA's estimates. Helene's damage was over 10 times that, at $78.7 billion.
The power of wind and water, that's what a hurricane represents. And it's what homeowners tell ABC13 they are most concerned about when it comes to protecting their property.
Building a house on a slab is so much different than the pilings and building up, but it's worth the investment and it's worth the peace of mind because
Terilyn is enjoying her well-earned retirement on Galveston Island. She worked in the property insurance industry for 30 years on the island, weathered several storms, and took everything she's learned into building her brand new home.
The problem with trying to do all of this because of the pricing and the builders and whatever you may do, it becomes too expensive.
And if you're the best home on the block and you've got those upgrades or you were built to a modern code, you are more insurable.
Leslie Chapman Henderson is the president and CEO of a nonprofit that works to educate homeowners in the storm zone about how to make their property more resilient.
The states across the country and many times local communities are providing matching grants to homeowners who want to do something different.
Enter a bill in the Texas House and Senate. House Bill 1576 could create a grant program for homeowners to help retrofit their homes to better withstand storm-related damage.
Your home is up there. You rose your home.
Yes.
Many of the homes on her block will likely have to be raised in order to avoid unaffordable insurance premiums.
We've got to be more inventive and encourage people and give broader discounts for people who really want to mitigate their losses and to encourage builders to invest that much money.
And experts tell ABC13 that if you're looking for easy yet effective ways to make your home more storm resilient, places to start would be with your garage, your windows, or your roof.
It's important for your family and home to be ready for this hurricane season and for the extreme weather systems that can hit any time of year. If you're not sure where to start, go to abc13.com to find our hurricane tracking guide.
Despite staffing reductions at the National Weather Service, we'll be here for you throughout the entire hurricane season to help keep you and your family safe. On behalf of the entire ABC13 weather team, I'm Travis Herzog.